There is a version of many women that the world showers praises on: the agreeable woman, the understanding woman, the self-sacrificing woman, the endlessly accommodating woman, the woman who swallows her discomfort to preserve everyone else's comfort, the woman who bends herself into socially acceptable shapes until she barely recognizes her own silhouette anymore. That woman is often praised, celebrated, desired, approved of. People call her kind, mature, humble, wife material, good, but nobody asks the more important question. Is she alive in there though? Or has she spent so many years performing goodness that she has slowly abandoned herself in exchange for approval? Because there comes a moment in some women's lives, a terrifyingly liberating moment, when they realize that the good woman everyone loved was absolutely killing them. Now let's talk about how the good woman is created. Nobody is born people-pleasing. That identity is constructed repeatedly, socially. Many girls learn very early that love becomes more available when they are easy to manage, easy to discipline, easy to silence, easy to approve of. You notice what gets rewarded: obedience, softness, compliance, self-denial, emotional labor. So unconsciously, you adapt. You begin building a personality around acceptability, not authenticity, acceptability. And there's always a painful difference. The first betrayal many women experience is not from a partner, not from society, not even from family. It's from themselves. The moment they realize they have been repeatedly abandoning their own feelings to remain lovable. You say yes when your body wants to say no. You smile when you feel disrespected. You shrink to avoid intimidating people. You over-explain your boundaries so nobody thinks you're difficult. Oh, I was so guilty of this one. You prioritize being chosen over being honest. And eventually, you become deeply disconnected from yourself. Because self-betrayal repeated long enough becomes identity. People-pleasing is exhausting because it requires constant self-monitoring. You're always scanning. How am I being perceived? Am I disappointing anyone? Am I too much? Am I selfish? Will they still like me if I say what I really feel? That level of psychological performance creates chronic tension within yourself because you are never fully relaxed inside yourself. You are constantly, always managing reactions, managing impressions, managing expectations, and eventually you become emotionally tired in a way sleep cannot fix because the exhaustion is not physical, it's existential. You are exhausted from being edited daily, constantly, all the time. Let me ask you this question. What's something you tolerated for too long because you wanted to be seen as good? Sit with that for a minute. Society rewards self-abandonment, and this is why. This is an uncomfortable truth, but many systems benefit from women who suppress themselves. Women who overgive are easier to use. Women who fear rejection are easier to manipulate. Women who need approval are easier to control. And because of that, self-abandonment often gets reframed as virtue. Be humble, be patient, be understanding, be softer, don't be difficult. Do you notice how rarely women are taught choose yourself, protect your peace, trust your anger? Listen to that again. Trust your anger. Leave what hurts you. Disappoint people when necessary, because a woman connected to herself becomes much harder to socially manage. There comes a moment sometimes after heartbreak, sometimes after burnout, sometimes after betrayal, sometimes after years of quiet resentment. When the performance stops feeling sustainable, you start noticing, I don't even know what I want anymore. Because your whole life has become organized around everyone else's expectations, their comfort, their standards, their approval, their needs, and somewhere inside that performance, your real self has been crying, waiting, hungry to express herself. A lot of women are not even allowed to feel anger, honestly. Sadness, acceptable. Compassion, of course. Endless forgiveness, of course. But anger? That makes people uncomfortable because anger disrupts compliance. Anger says, this hurts me. This is unfair to me. I don't want this. And for many women, their healing begins the moment they stop suppressing their anger and start listening to what their anger is trying to protect. Not destructive anger, clarifying anger, the kind that says, I cannot continue abandoning myself. The good woman must die. And this is where people misunderstand the message. The goal is not cruelty. It's not selfishness. It's not becoming emotionally cold. The goal is integration. The death of the good woman is the death of compulsive self-sacrifice, the death of performative likability, the death of chronic self-erasure, the death of needing approval more than freedom. Because no woman becomes powerful while constantly negotiating against herself. One of the hardest parts of changing is disappointing people who benefited from your lack of boundaries. The moment you become more honest, more selective, more direct, more self-protective, some people will say, you've changed. But of course, that's the point. That's the whole point. Growth often feels offensive to people who preferred your compliance. And that is the point. Authenticity can feel lonely initially. As a matter of fact, it will. Because performance attracts more approval than honesty does. When you stop shape-shifting for acceptance, some connections naturally dissolve. Not because you became worse or a bad person, but because the relationship depended on your self-abandonment. And that realization hurts, but let those relationships and connections dissolve. Especially for women conditioned to equate being loved with being useful. It hurts. One of the most beautiful things that happens after the good woman dies is desire returns. I'll always talk about this. Desires return. Real desire. Not socially approved desire. Your actual desires. You start asking, what do I want? Not what sounds respectable for me. Or what makes me easier to be accepted. Or what earns applause. What genuinely feels alive to me? That question will change your life. The woman who emerges afterward is often quieter, but far more real. She stops over-explaining herself, stops apologizing for boundaries, stops auditioning for acceptance. She becomes harder to manipulate because she is finally connected to herself. And the self-connected woman is dangerous to systems built on female self-denial. So let that good woman die. The exhausted woman, the over-accommodating woman, the chronically apologetic woman, the woman who keeps betraying herself to remain desirable, acceptable, manageable, the woman who doesn't even know what she wants, the woman who suppresses what she wants. Let that good woman die. She has carried enough. And in her place, allow someone more honest to emerge. Not perfect, not endlessly agreeable, not universally liked, but alive. Fully alive. Allow yourself to emerge and let that good woman die. I'd like you to answer these questions carefully in the comments. Number 1, have you ever felt loved for how much you tolerated instead of who you truly were? Number 2, have you ever looked at your life and realized you built it around everybody except yourself? Number 3, what's one boundary you are afraid to enforce because you fear how people will react? Number 4, what part of yourself are you trying to bring back to life? It has been my pleasure to sit with you as always. This has been the Human Mirror. Look closely. You are never invisible. I'll see you in the next reflection.